The firemen are gone, they left hours ago, I think. Time's a bit soupy right now. But the smell, God, the smell is still here, it's not just smoke. It's wet ash, melted plastic, and something else, something that smells like the end of a life. My life, the one I had yesterday. I'm standing across the street from the wreckage of my house, and I can't stop hearing his voice. Not the roar of the fire, not the sirens, just his voice, calm and clear through the chaos. Don't go in, do you remember where you put the matchbox? That's what he yelled, Silas. The homeless guy who's been following me for 6 months. That one sentence is all that's left. It's burned into my brain more permanently than the fire burned my home. It just plays on a loop over and over. I don't even know why I'm writing this. I'm not looking for answers, not really. How could any of you have them? I think I just need to write it down before the question itself burns me down from the inside out, just like my house. My sanity feels like it's turning to ash. It started subtly, so subtly that for the first few weeks I was the one convincing myself I was crazy. It began, as these things often do, with a simple pattern. I'd see him on the corner by the coffee shop I went to every morning. Silas. That's the name I gave him in my head because he had this serene, almost biblical look about him, despite the grime and the tattered, multi-layered coat that he wore even on warm days. He never asked for money, he never spoke, he just smiled. At first, I barely registered it. He was just part of the urban landscape, but then I started to notice the smile was always directed at me. I'd be rushing, thinking about a deadline, and I'd feel this pull. I'd look up, and there he'd be across the street, his eyes locked onto mine. And he'd give this slow, gentle smile. It wasn't a threatening smile, not in the traditional sense. That was the truly unsettling part. It wasn't a leer or a smirk, it was calm, peaceful even, but it was the wrong kind of peace. It was the peace of someone watching a movie they've already seen, just waiting for your favorite part. And I had the chilling feeling that I was the movie. After the coffee shop, he started appearing elsewhere. I'd leave my office building and he'd be sitting on a bench in the plaza 2 blocks down. I'd go to the park to eat my lunch, and he'd be on the other side of the duck pond, partially hidden by a willow tree. Always at a distance, always with that same unreadable smile. It felt like he was a magnet, and my daily routine was a pile of iron filings, slowly, inevitably arranging itself around him. The paranoia began to curdle my thoughts. I tried to explain it to a coworker, Dave, one afternoon. "There's this guy," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "I think he's following me." Dave just laughed. "Welcome to the city, Soren. Everyone's got a weirdo, just ignore him." But I couldn't. I started actively trying to break my routine. I took a different route to work, a long, inefficient one through a neighborhood I hated. For 2 days I saw nothing. A small, fragile bubble of relief started to form in my chest. On the third day, as I was waiting at a crosswalk, I glanced at the reflection in a storefront window and my heart seized. There he was, standing on the opposite corner behind me, smiling at my reflection. That's when real fear took root. I started driving to work, a huge hassle with parking, but I felt safer inside a metal box. The relief lasted a week. Then one evening I was stopped at a red light a few miles from my house and I checked my rearview mirror. For a split second I saw him. He was just standing on the sidewalk I had passed a moment before, a motionless figure growing smaller as I drove away. He wasn't running, he wasn't in a car, he was just there. How? My mind refused to process it. It was impossible. I told myself it was someone else, someone who just looked like him, but I knew that smile. The final straw was the call to the non-emergency police line. I felt like a complete idiot trying to explain it. "He hasn't threatened me, no," I stammered to the bored-sounding dispatcher. "He hasn't approached me." "So what's the problem, sir?" "He's just always there, he watches me, he smiles." There was a long pause. I could hear her typing. "Sir, a man smiling is not a crime. My advice is just to go about your day. If he approaches you or makes a direct threat, call 911. I hung up, feeling more alone than ever. The world had decided Silas was harmless. But my gut, my primal animal brain, was screaming that I was being hunted. Not by a predator who wanted to kill me, but by something far stranger. I was living in a state of constant, low-grade terror, haunted by a silent, smiling shadow. And the worst part was, I had no idea what he was waiting for. Last night I stayed late at the office. One of those stupid projects with a deadline that doesn't really matter. All I could think about was getting home, kicking off my shoes, and feeding Miles. My cat, he's the only thing that makes that empty house feel like a home. I was exhausted, driving on autopilot. The smell hit me first about 2 blocks away. Acrid chemical. Not a neighbor's fireplace. My stomach tightened. I told myself it was nothing. Then I saw the glow against the low clouds, a sick, flickering orange. "Please," I whispered to no one, "please, not my street." But it was. When I turned the corner, it was like driving into a scene from hell. The street was choked with smoke, flashing red and blue lights painting the trees. And the source of it all, the center of the chaos, was my house. It wasn't just on fire, it was a roaring furnace. Flames were punching through the roof, the windows on the second floor were black, gaping mouths screaming heat. My brain just shut off. All the wires were cut except for one. Miles. He was in there, probably hiding under my bed, terrified. I wasn't thinking about smoke or heat or the fact that the whole structure was groaning. I slammed the car into park in the middle of the road and ran. I was halfway across the lawn, the heat already blistering my face, when a hand grabbed my arm. Hard. I spun around, ready to punch, ready to scream, and it was him. Silas. The fire was roaring behind him, lighting up his face, and he was smiling, that same goddamn calm, gentle smile. In that instant, 6 months of fear and paranoia crystallized into pure white-hot rage. It all made sense in the worst possible way. "You did this," I screamed, my voice cracking. "You fucking psycho, you burned my house down." He didn't flinch, he just held my arm, his grip surprisingly strong, and looked right into my eyes. The smile never left his face. And then he said it, yelled it really, to be heard over the inferno. "Don't go in, do you remember where you put the matchbox?" And just like that, the world stopped. My rage evaporated, replaced by a vast, empty confusion. Matchbox, what the hell was he talking about? My legs felt weak. I just stood there staring at him while my house died behind him. The last thing I saw before a firefighter tackled me and dragged me back toward the street was Silas. He let go of my arm, gave me one last, slow nod, and then just melted away into the chaos of shouting neighbors and arriving emergency vehicles. Gone, as if the fire had conjured him and the sirens had banished him. I'm staying at a motel now. One of those places off the highway where the ice machine is always broken and the bedspread feels like sandpaper. My whole life fits into a single duffel bag of smoke-damaged clothes the Red Cross gave me. The last 2 days have been a blur of phone calls. Insurance adjusters with sympathetic but hollow voices. Police detectives asking questions I can't answer. Worried friends who don't know what to say beyond "I'm so sorry." They're all focusing on the fire. I'm focusing on the words. The official police theory is faulty wiring. An old house, they said. These things happen. A tragic, unavoidable accident. They took my statement and I told them everything about the fire, about running towards the house. I left out the part about Silas. How could I explain it? The homeless man who stalks me was there, and he asked me a cryptic question about a matchbox. They'd have me in a psych hold before the insurance check cleared. So I just nodded and said I couldn't remember much. Shock, you know, but I remember everything, and his question is a parasite in my brain. "Do you remember where you put the matchbox?" It's such a specific, bizarre thing to say. I do have a matchbox, or I did. It was one of those oversized ones from the Crow's Nest, a dive bar downtown. I kept it on the mantelpiece to light the fireplace in the winter. It was a little ritual I had. So I've been sitting here on this lumpy motel bed trying to remember. When was the last time I saw it? I close my eyes and I can almost picture it sitting there on the dark wood of the mantel. The black cardboard with the white crow logo. But the memory is slippery. Did I use it last week? A month ago? Did I move it? My brain feels like a corrupted hard drive. I keep trying to access the file, but it's full of glitches and missing data. Why would he ask that? Was it a threat, a clue? Was he the one who set the fire and that was his sick way of taunting me? But that doesn't fit with him stopping me, saving me. The police said if I'd gone in, I'd have lasted maybe 10 seconds before the roof collapsed. He saved my life. The man I was terrified of, the man I was convinced was going to hurt me, saved my life. And then he left me with a riddle that is slowly, methodically driving me insane. The accident and Silas's words are two puzzle pieces from different boxes. They shouldn't fit together, but I can't shake the feeling that they do, and I'm the only one who sees it. Update: hey, thanks for all the messages. It's weirdly comforting to know strangers on the internet care. A lot of you are saying the same thing. It was a coincidence. Silas is just a mentally ill person who happened to be there, and my traumatized brain is trying to find patterns that don't exist. I believed that. I really wanted to believe that until about an hour ago. The fire marshal, a guy named Peterson, called me. He had the final report. He was very kind, very professional. He confirmed the official cause, an electrical surge in the kitchen wall, probably from the old wiring connected to the refrigerator. An open and shut case. He was about to hang up, but then he hesitated. "Mr. Sorensen," he said, his voice dropping a little, "there is one other thing. It's probably nothing, but for the sake of a complete report, I have to mention it." He told me that while sifting through the debris in the kitchen, they found something unusual in the metal trash can under the sink. The can had protected its contents from the worst of the fire, but everything inside was charred. It was filled with burned paper, Not food scraps, not packaging, but stacks of what looked like documents. Peterson said the paper was too badly burned to be identified, but it was clear someone had intentionally burned a large volume of paper in that can shortly before the electrical fire started. My blood went cold. I'm standing here in my motel room and I'm freezing. But that's not the part that's making me shake. After I hung up with the marshal, I just stood there staring at the wall and suddenly it came back to me. The matchbox, it was like a door in my mind that was locked shut just burst open. I remember it now crystal clear, yesterday morning. I bought one of those scented candles, the kind that's supposed to make your house smell like a pine forest. I couldn't find a lighter. I went to the fireplace, grabbed the matchbox from the mantel, took it to my bedroom and lit the candle on my nightstand. And I left the matchbox there, on the nightstand, next to my bed. My bedroom is on the opposite side of the house from the kitchen, as far away from the origin of the fire as you can possibly get, so Silas's question makes even less sense now. And a hell of a lot more. That one detail, the matchbox being in the bedroom, it's like a wrench thrown into the gears of my memory. Everything is grinding and screeching and coming to a halt. My whole perception of the last 6 months is being torn apart and reassembled into something monstrous. I'm sitting here replaying every single encounter I had with Silas, but now I'm looking at them through a different lens. A terrifying, confusing lens. All those times I thought he was just staring, just smiling his creepy smile. Was that all it was? I remember one afternoon, about 2 months back, I was walking to my car after work. He was standing on the corner and he made this weird gesture. He pointed up, then made a sharp downward chopping motion with his hand. I was so freaked out I literally ran the last block to my car, convinced it was some kind of throat-slitting threat. But now I remember that my office building is ancient. They were doing facade work on the floor above ours that whole week. Chunks of masonry were falling occasionally. Was he warning me? And another time, I used to grab a sandwich from this little deli every Friday. It was my small end-of-week tradition. One Friday I was walking towards it and Silas was standing across the street just watching. When I glanced over, he shook his head very slowly and his smile seemed sad, pitying. I was so unnerved I just turned around and went home. The next Monday, the deli was shut down. Health code violations, a massive salmonella outbreak. I read about it in the local news online. Dozens of people got sick. Coincidence? It has to be. My brain is just taking random, meaningless events and weaving them into a narrative because the alternative is impossible. It's what people do. We see faces in the clouds. We see conspiracies in chaos. But the feeling is so strong. It's like I've been walking through a minefield for 6 months, and this strange, silent man has been walking behind me, gently nudging me away from the triggers with his creepy smiles and weird gestures. What I perceived as a threat, a hunt, was what? A form of protection, a guardian angel who smells like garbage and sleeps on a park bench. The fear I felt for him is gone now. It's been replaced by something colder, deeper, and infinitely more unsettling. It's the profound, vertigo-inducing terror of realizing you have fundamentally misunderstood your reality. The world I was living in, where I was a normal guy with a boring job being stalked by a psycho, that world felt safe compared to this one. In this new world, silent men see the future, fires have a purpose, and questions about matchboxes are keys to unlocking a reality I don't think I'm equipped to handle. I feel like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff, and I'm not sure if I was just saved from a fall or pushed towards one. Update 2, I can't do this anymore. I think I'm losing my mind. I spent all of today just walking. I needed to do something, anything, other than sit in this dead quiet motel room and let my thoughts eat me alive. I ended up going back to my old neighborhood. I don't know why, a morbid pilgrimage, I guess. I went to all his spots. The corner by the coffee shop, the bench in the park. The streetlight at the end of my old street. Nothing, he's gone, vanished. It's like the fire took him too. Everyone I asked, the baristas, the hot dog vendor, they all had a vague memory of him, but no one knew his name or where he came from. He was just part of the scenery, and now the scenery has changed. On my way back, I took a detour down the alleyway behind the coffee shop. It was one of the few places I'd seen him where he wasn't directly looking at me. He'd just be sitting there against the brick wall in his own world. I just wanted to see it one last time. The alley was empty, just overflowing dumpsters and graffiti. I was about to turn and leave when I saw something wedged into a crack in the brick wall, right where he used to sit. It was a tiny, folded piece of paper. My heart started hammering. I pulled it out. It wasn't just paper. It was the torn-off striker strip from a matchbox. And underneath it, carefully folded, was the main cardboard wrapper. It was from the crow's nest, my matchbox. There was no way to know if it was the one, but it was. I knew it. It was old and faded, but it hadn't been burned. It was just there waiting. I don't know what this means. Is it a sign, a final message? Is he telling me he knows? Or is it just a piece of trash a homeless man left behind that my broken brain is turning into a holy relic? I'm standing here, holding this stupid piece of cardboard, and I'm crying. I don't know if I'm crying for my house, for my cat, or for the fact that a man I thought was my tormentor might have been the only person looking out for me. And now he's gone and he took all the answers with him. It's been a year, I have a new apartment. It's smaller, cleaner, and everything in it is new and smells faintly of particle board and cheap paint. There are no memories attached to the furniture. There is no history in the walls. I have a new job in a different part of the city. I have a new cat, a little black kitten I named Miles II, which felt less like a replacement and more like an echo. On the surface, life has moved on. The insurance money came through. The scar on my forearm from a falling ember has faded to a pale white line. I am, by all accounts, a survivor. A lucky man, but I'm not. I'm a ghost, haunting a life that looks like mine. I never saw Silas again. He dissolved back into the ether from whence he came. And with him went any chance of an answer, any hope of resolution. Was he a guardian angel with a fractured mind, a prophet doomed to live on the streets? Or was he just a profoundly disturbed man whose random obsessions and nonsensical warnings happened to intersect with a tragic coincidence? A freak electrical fire. Was the burned paper in the trash can my own doing, some forgotten house cleaning, or something more sinister that Silas was trying to save me from? These questions are my new housemates. They sit with me at dinner, they lie next to me in bed. They are the first things I greet in the morning and the last things I say goodnight to. I will never know the truth. I have to live with both possibilities coexisting forever in my head. He was everything and he was nothing. He saved my life and he was just a bystander. Sometimes, late at night, I take out that folded piece of cardboard from the crow's nest. It's the only thing I have from my old life. I keep it in a small box on my new sterile mantelpiece. I look at it and I try to feel something definitive. Gratitude, fear, nothing comes, just a profound, hollow ache, the ache of the unknown. I was sitting by my new window last week, watching the people on the street below. A man walking his dog looked up right at my window and he smiled. A perfectly normal, friendly smile, and my heart stopped. For a terrifying second, my breath caught in my throat and the world tilted on its axis. It wasn't him, it was just a guy, but I know now that it will always be him. Every stranger's smile, every random act of kindness, every unexplained coincidence will forever be filtered through the memory of Silas. He pulled me from a burning building, but in doing so he pushed me into another fire. A quieter, colder one, one that will never, ever burn out.